tomorrow's morning session. We have Dr. Amit back. I think I'm really sorry for he's got certain disconnectivity due to some power cut and all. So I'm really, but then by the time I could take feedback, Amit sir, by the time you were while struggling to reconnect back, I was taking the feedback as to what are the new topics they would like to have some discussion on. So
Sure,
she
sir.
had suggested some topics, and I'll take care of these topics tomorrow.
All right, sir.
Thank you very much for connecting back. And I think now over to you. I have already introduced you to the forum and
Thank you
I've
so
also
much.
introduced the topic. So I request you without further delay, you can start your session on the topic project activity and project-based learning. Over to you, sir.
Sure, sure. Yeah. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. And I'd like to thank all the teachers who have found some time to attend this meeting. Though teachers are usually, loaded with all the activities apart from academics, there are so many other activities which they are assigned to. But you have taken time since morning to evening. So I'm really very thankful to you. I hope I'm audible to all.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Clearly.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for the confirmation. So uh, I would like to wish all of you a very good afternoon who have joined the session. My name is Amit Kumar.
Good afternoon.
I'm an assistant professor of English at GITAM University, Hyderabad. So before I start this session, I would like to ask all of you a simple, very simple question. Okay, like what makes English classes more interesting than other teachers? I'm not demeaning other subjects. But what makes English classes especially more interesting than other subjects? You can respond in the chat box also if you want. And one more question I would like to add here, that what do you use or what kind of techniques or strategies do you use to make your classes interesting and engaging for your students? Somebody is saying, Anjana ma'am is saying stories and poems, fine.
May I try, sir? As
Yes, sir.
Ajay Srivastava from. Sir, if the classes are interesting, if there are many activities in the class, if
Right.
the teacher is taking interest and he is just starting his lesson with the songs and music is including or he's including some activities that may be just very useful for the student, role play or something.
True, sir.
And the classes are always very interesting, sir.
Sure, sir. Yes, I understand, sir. And thank you so much for your response, sir. Rajesh, sir. And
Sir, language includes prose and poetry and all those drama and all those. So these are interesting and they take interest. Learners take interest in particular that subject. That's why.
yes,
So other subjects are not like that. Language includes all the aspects, all the things in it.
yes, sir.
That's why,
Because
sir.
language doesn't have its own content, so it borrows content from other subjects. So it automatically becomes, interdisciplinary or multidisciplinary, isn't it? Right. So having viewed your responses, many of you are saying by connecting our teaching with our surroundings, yes, context definitely makes our classes more interesting, and we ensure the active participation of the learners also in activities. Very nice. Thank you so much for your active responses, sir. So having viewed your responses, I'm happy to tell you that this session, today's afternoon session, has objective of making you aware or making you familiar with different kinds of techniques and strategies that can make English classes more interesting, more interactive, and more effective for language development. So with that, I would like to share my slide. Is it fine?
Yes, sir.
Right. Thank you.
It is not visible, sir.
No, I will share, sir. I'd like to share it. Then it will be visible. Is it visible to all now?
Yeah.
Is it
Yes,
visible?
sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. It's visible.
Okay, okay, fine. So I will put it in presentation mode. So today's presentation or today's session is on activity, project, and competency-based language learning. So the essence of this presentation is summarized through this quote: "Tell me and I forget, teach me and I may remember, involve me and I learn." It is by Benjamin Franklin. So it is very clear from this quote that learners' involvement and active participation in the class is very important. Hmm. So in this session, I would like to take up three very important, three very interesting topics, where the first one is activity-based language learning, second one is project-based language learning, and the third one is competency-based language learning. So after discussing these three in details, uh, the our session will be followed by discussion and interaction with all of you with your experience, and then I would like to receive your observation, comments, and feedback. So let us start with the first one. So the first one is activity-based language learning. And what happens usually, teachers misunderstand two aspects, tasks and activities, and they use these two aspects interchangeably. So in this slide, in the next slide, I would like to make a distinction between these two aspects. So if you look at the task and activity as two different entities, on based on some criteria like meaning, purpose, action, attention, time, and focus, we can differentiate these two in two different categories. So the task, as per the meaning, is a work that needs to be done in the classroom, which you assign to your students, and activity is also assigned, but any kind of action which are directly coordinated with the task is called an activity. And then the purpose is very important for any kind of task and activities. So the purpose of the task is more designed and incorporated with specific objectives of the lesson. It is directly oriented towards the lesson. And then the purpose of activities is coordinated with the goal of the task. For example, if we say, if you give a paragraph writing to your 10th class student, 9th class students, or whichever level of learners, then what happens? The task which you assign to them for developing their writing skill, is the main aim of the class, but task is paragraph writing. And then within paragraph writing, you divide them into stages, and then for example, preparing a mind map, or brainstorming, or writing the first draft, or revising, all these small actions of students are called activities. So the attention and the action which is required for a task is to outcome and the product, whereas for this activity, for any activity, the focus is on the process. And then attention wise, task is highly focused, highly structured, and activity is less focused and less structured. And time, you try to structure and bound time with every task you do, you assign to the students. But for activities, some activities may take lesser time, some activities may take longer time. It depends on your students' cognitive skills and other language skills, that how much time it takes. Then the overall focus is on achieving the task objectives in coordination with the lesson objectives. And then activity, in contrast of task, is focusing more towards the practice or involvement of the learners. So these are basically some differences which can distinguish these two. So the characteristic, we are focusing on the activities, not tasks. So in this session, let me tell you what are some of the characteristics of activities. So activities are always in align with the course or task objective. It focuses towards the learning outcome, and it is always appropriate to the level of learners. So whenever you design a task or whenever you design an activity, you must check the level of learners. What can they be able to do? And then all the activities which you design and develop for your students, they should be targeted towards language skills. For example, if it is a listening task, if it is a listening speaking activity, or writing activity, or reading activity, so it depends on the nature of skill. Then design developmental process. How will you design them? How will they go on to the activity? And how much their engagements, learners engagement will be, or involvement will be taken place, so that you decide in the beginning. And it must be suitable to the needs of the diverse learning styles. Each student does not or may not have equal style. All the students may not have equal style, so you try to accommodate all of them, and then develop a learning style which can be suitable for for your group of learners, and devise activities accordingly. And you must have a proper monitoring system. And after that, assessment is also very important aspect when you assign activities to your students, where learner's role and teacher's role both are very important. So all these characteristic features are very important when you design any activity for your classroom. Now, what is the role of activities in English language learning? How can they help students? So first of all, they help in using language for multiple purposes, because you design activities for various reasons, various objectives. They also help in students in analyzing the language for effective use. So you try to give them an environment or favorable condition where they can use their language effectively. And in this process, they can identify, analyze, and correct the errors made by themselves and others through feedback, revision, or peer feedback. So there are multiple strategies we use. And these activities also try to develop language competence, covering all their skills. So these days, anyway, we focus not only on one skill, we focus on integrated skills, where learners can use all the skills: listening, speaking, reading, writing, and both the aspects, grammar and vocabulary, also in one context. So their competence, and then performance, language use prior to the actual language use. So if they want to, the ultimate goal of the language use is to use them in any context, in a real life context. So just to prepare them to be able to perform these language exercise, you try to develop their competence. And finally, ultimately, the goal is to develop their communication skills, which includes all the basic skills. So these are some of the roles of activities in language learning class. And you may be using different types of activities in your classroom. Activity as a concept is not new to you. Fine. And I'm also not introducing this concept to you, but I'm just trying to revise them and categorize them more, and trying to make it more structured, so that you can use them in a proper situation. So there are some types of activities which we use in the classroom are warm up, which are used in the beginning of the class just to prepare the learners. Some activities are used for giving them practice, where they can practice any concept which are already taught to them. Then sometimes classes are monotonous, because the explanation by the teachers, or because of some other reasons, some classes are monotonous. So you want to bring enjoyment, or you want to bring fun elements to your class. So you include some activities like games and other things for fun purposes, so that learners can attend with their cognitive capacity. They can attend, or they can come back to the class mentally. Some activities are performed individually, okay, where learner does not need any support. They can perform, or they can do these activities on their own, whereas some activities need groupings or in pair. For example, role play. If you are giving them a role play, you need to categorize, you need to form pairs, And then if you are assigning any group activity where learners work in groups of peers, then some of the group activities are constructed. So these are some of the major activities or popular activities which we use in our English language classroom. um I have tried to include some of the examples also, like for each skill. Some of the activities which we generally use are listening. In listening skills, that like listening to a lecture, it may be a longer one or shorter one, or uh, any kind of lecture you want to play, okay, from British Council or from any other website, that's up to you. Or there are multiple lectures available on YouTube also. If you want them to give some supplementary listening, then these kind of activities will be helpful. Then note taking, when you ask them to listen to a lecture and then try to prepare notes based on that. Then musical is also these days, music has a big role to play in our lives. So why not we learn from them? There are multiple songs which use English language, and uh, even the learners use them frequently in their daily life. So we can make use of those musicals. And then we have story completion, where the students are given some part of the story and then they have to listen to it and complete it. These days, TED Talk has given a very big platform where we can listen to any kind of audio or video, of any timings, okay, of any duration. If you just type in TED Talk website that if you want 1 minute, 2 minute, or more than that, whatever number of time video you want, it is available. And then you ask them to watch those videos and ask them to discuss. Fine. So these are some of the listening activities which can help them in developing their listening skill. Whereas if we come to speaking, there are multiple types of bingos available where we have a grid or chart, and we put as per the interest or as per the requirements, we put the information there and ask the students to bring in more information through bingo activity grid. And then you must remember the earlier also teachers used to use wheels, okay, vocabulary wheels or dictionary wheels or like that. So wheels try to give them clues so that uh, they get some clues and prepare themselves to speak on some topic. Then we have another activity, information gap, where some information is hidden, where they have to find those information by speaking to others, by talking to others. And then role play is very popular and very effective activity, where we ask them to work in pairs and then uh, play a role, which is generally done in the real world. Okay. And podcast is another element, another activity, which is a new addition. It's not very new, but uh, many students generally in government school, even in the private schools, they may not be very much aware of the podcast, where they have to record their audio and listen to them and try to work on their errors. Okay. And guessing game, that is also another speaking activity which are used as generally as warm up activity. And when it comes to reading, we use mind mapping, where they have to gather information and through brainstorming strategy, and then prepare a mind map, okay, like a web, scrambled sentences, where they have to rearrange the sentences written in puzzled form or mixed form, skimming to get the overall idea of the text, and scanning to get the specific information from the text. And group reading, this is also very popular these days, because if the text length is bigger, so you can form groups, and then learners are given some, they are assigned to some portion of the text, and then they discuss and accumulate all the information they receive from the text. And then finally question and answer, which we have been using since ages. So this is still very much relevant, question answer as an activity. Whereas in the writing activity, we have if learners are asked to work on their classroom magazine, they can develop their writing skill by working on magazines, or reflective diaries are also very popular these days. They can be asked to write journals on any topic of their choice. And if we promote it a little further, it can be turned into blogs. Okay. Collaborative writing, where learners are given opportunity to work in group. Then advertisement, because many students, they in their future, they want to become a content writer or something like that. Then they can work on these kind of activities like advertisements and self-assessment, peer feedback. So these activities, these writing activities will help them in reflecting and developing their thinking or critical thinking skill, and try to develop their writing skills ultimately. So these are some of the activities which you can practice. Apart from these skills, we have two aspects of language. This is grammar and vocabulary. In grammar, we have grammar bingo or quiz, grammar games, sentence completion, error identification, editing and proofreading, just to make them more advanced learners and practice their grammar. And see, there is a misconception that learners will not be able to provide feedback or receive feedback at school level or so. I've already tried it, and there are many researchers also which say that learners at their own level, they can do, they are able to do it. Just as a teacher, we need to build some confidence and show our confidence in our learners, so that they'll be involved in these kind of activities, which needs higher attention, which needs higher order critical thinking skills. And then we have vocabulary, where newspaper reading. These days, the introduction of mobile or incorporation of mobile in the classroom, when we say that mobile integrated language learning and computer integrated language learning, then these have given given a scope for us to bring newspaper in the classroom. If it is not possible physically, then they can read the words in context and try to use them. Vocabulary bingo, as I have already discussed. Acrostics is another activity where learners take the first letter of words, and then develop them as per the requirement or as per the context. There is another activity is word replacement, quiz, and graffiti, where they have to use words on walls and then try to utilize them in different contexts. So these are some of the activities which I tried to list. There are many more which which was not possible to bring here in the classroom. You can just explore all the activities and then try to make a list of all of them, which will be helpful to your students. And you know what happens, listening sorry selecting activities is not an easy task. Many people choose, many teachers, they choose activities randomly without knowing the purpose, without having any coordination with the goals of the lesson, task, and all those. But what I feel, that if we are more organized or more structured or a bit conscious towards these activities, it will be very easy for all of us to bring in more effective activities in the classroom. So there is a process in choosing and setting goals for activities. So when you look at the first process, the step one is knowing the learning objective of a unit. So we have to come from the broader area to the narrow perspective. So from the broader one, if you look at the curriculum, then you have syllabus, then you have lesson objective, and according to the lesson objective, you try to set the task, understand the broad and specific objective of the task, and then in step 3, you try to analyze the current level of learners, their needs, and then target language, or then basic skills, which language skill you are focusing to. So there are so many aspects you look into, and then you try to design activities which can be through which you can determine the expected language outcome from the learners. So these 3-4 steps are very important for a teacher to understand. Students may not be aware of all these things, but a teacher, when you see, I don't know how many of you or how many of us really focus on the lesson plan, or we are so structured, but generally, if you do not do it on a piece of paper, you can at least mentally, you can design these stages and map, so that you will be aware, or you will be familiar with the task and activities what you have decided for your learners. Then one very popular, and see, generally group work, though we do in the classroom, but I have also studied in government school, and I see it is very difficult for the teachers to implement group work in language classroom because of multiple factors. Okay, sometimes the large classes are very large. Okay, there are many students, and it is very difficult for the teachers to form groups, and many other or infrastructure wise also they may not be they may not be what should you say, able to implement or incorporate group work in their classroom. But this is one of the very effective technique which can be implemented if we are a bit structured, or if we are a bit conscious. So there are multiple benefits which I have listed here. So the first benefit is an effective educational practice to accomplish a common goal when they work in the group, uh, and provide the learners, this kind of setting provide the learners with a natural learning environment where they can use language, engaging with other learners. It also promotes students' engagement, classroom interaction, and active participation in the tasks which are provided by the teachers generally. And then it helps in developing communication through interaction, discussion, explanation, and feedback. And it also helps in developing learners' cognitive level through working together with students of different cognitive levels, because learners do not only use language. Even in the classroom they have different cognitive levels of learners. So when we, as a teacher, if we know that who is working with whom, if we are a bit structured, then it will be easy for them to develop the bond, or get some kind of scaffolding from other teachers or other learners while working in the group. And it doesn't only help the learners only, it is helpful for teachers also, because when they incorporate tasks and activities in the large classroom, it will be very easy for them to monitor the progress of the work. They don't have to go to individual students, they can directly go to the group and get the update or provide feedback to them. You might have experienced also in your classrooms. If you have not, please try to do it. So there are some strategies which I have listed here. There are many more, but these which I thought should be very interesting for all of you. Uh, that when you form groups, you apply various strategies and techniques, but some of the strategies are random. When you choose students randomly as per the purpose, and then one is odd even, where you choose when you make all the students line up and then choose one students, like you become Arvind Kejriwal, and implement odd and even, like he does for transport. You can also do for students. Next one is count off, when the total number of students you count and then divide as per your requirement, you divide them in your groups. What is said that generally groups, many people consider 7 to 8 members in the group. See, more than 5 to 6 members, they may not be called groups. You know, they are chaos. They are gathering. They may not be groups. Fine. So please try to. I'm just mentioning it, the numbers of groups, because if there are 5 to 6 members groups, it will be very easy for you to monitor the progress. Otherwise, a bigger or larger number of team will be difficult task for teachers, for learners as well, when they work in group with each other. Then the next strategy is round robin, when you choose students equally in some rational order, okay, or structure, as per your requirements, as per their activities, or the whichever activities you define and the nature it requires. The last one is jigsaw, where member of the class are organized into groups. You create some groups and then ask them to go to different groups and work together. So these are some of the strategies that can be implemented into the classroom. So I hope some I hope the discussion on activity based classroom or language learning might be helpful to all of you. Now with this, let us go to the next kind of next technique or next method, you can say, which is project based language learning, which also gives scope for the learners to work together and work through their experience or expertise. So here, all of us are aware of integrating or integration of 21st century skills, or what kind of skills which are required now for any student. If you look at the definition, which says that project work leads to the authentic integration of skills and processing of information from varied sources, mirroring real life tasks. Earlier we used to study any subject, or we used to learn language, even in English, only for academic purposes or using for our academic performance. But now that doesn't, the context is not same. Now everything we study, or any subject we study, it has its implication. So applied mathematics or applied physics or applied language also. So we need to work for a real life context. We need to prepare our students for work for a real life context. That's why
Ah,
project based learning is very
ah.
important, or very effective method
Thank you.
that can be very helpful. So let us try to understand what is project and what is project based learning. There is a difference. You must have seen in your English textbook, after every lesson, at the end of every lesson, in the exercise, in the exercise column, you might have checked that there are projects, and this is project based learning. Is there any difference? The difference here, the basic difference is project, when you have a textbook, when you have project in the textbook after every lesson, those projects are expected to practice which is already taught, which is already discussed, any concept which is already taught or explained by the teachers or discussed in the class. But this project based learning, it needs a process where learners, they create projects for themselves. They work on the real life problems and then follow a process to reach to a goal where a solution can be given to any problem, with experience or with the process. So it is an approach to teaching and learning that is designed to engage students in investigation in a process of authentic problems which are directly connected to real life. So this is very important. So there are multiple benefits of project-based learning because it encourages the learners to use language in real-life context. Second, it promotes group learning so that learners get sufficient language practice in authentic academic situations. Then we have we create a kind of environment where they can communicate with others in multiple real life contexts and develop their linguistic competence, and creates a curiosity among learners to investigate the reasons for a specific problems generally faced by users. For example, if you ask what are the problems generally old people face while handling social media. Fine. So this is a kind of problem. And you can ask them to discover what is the problem, and then what are the factors associated with this, or what kind of affecting factors which which are the causes, which are the different causes for this problem, and then how to solve these problems. So in order to in order to reach to the solution, they have to follow proper stages. They have to follow process. So this process will enable them to develop certain skills among them. So it also helps in developing important life skills, which I was talking about. For example, problem solving, leadership skills. When they work in group, they can develop their decision making skill, or interpersonal skill, intrapersonal skill, and time management skill, stress management skill. So when you assign them the tasks which they need in their real life, then this project based learning provide those kind of opportunities. So that's how it is very helpful to them. And so ultimately, when they work through project based learning, they have this sense of development, this sense of development of community, where they can practice language very spontaneously and use them in a similar kind of real life context in future. So these are some of the benefits of project based learning, and there are some key features which are very important, or which are very much relevant for the learners. So we'll start with a problem. First, the project-based learning starts with a problem where they can discover or explore a challenging problem or question. They can raise question. Okay, that is the first process. Then the problem must be very authentic. It must be concerned to their real life, and they can reach to these problems. They can find out these problems. They can explore the reasons of the problem through sustained inquiry. They have to continue. They have to consistently work on it to find these problems and how can how can we resolve those problems. And then teachers do not completely give their dependency on them. They have to teachers should be given the opportunity or to give opportunity to the learners to take decision of their own learning. Then students can make their own choice and they can have their voice when they learn through experience. And those experience they can turn into reflection and think and develop their thinking and critical thinking capacity and become a critic and revise the if they report, they can revise their draft, or if they they face any challenge, they can revise how it can be tackled into a different way. And then when these experiences come together, they can produce it as a public product for others to learn. Fine. So these are some of the key features which PBL gives liberty to the students. And these are some of the techniques and strategies where we can prepare those students, like active learning, where they can get involved in different types of activities created by the teacher, and then they engage themselves. Experimental, where they can integrate large number of experiential learning activities and work on project and work on any kind of experiment or explore some questions and then follow a process to reach to the solution. Some of the activities that can be devised by the teacher, that can be created by teachers, are guided at discovery, where students can work on some kind of issues or some kind of challenges under the guidance of teacher. Teacher's involvement will also be there. So teacher will also work as a guide, as a monitor, the way we do project at higher level. And then we have case studies when you pinpoint or when you narrow down to a particular problem faced by a person or faced by a community or faced by a particular entity. So that is also another kind of techniques and strategies we can use to take projects. And then we have a collaborative, which needs or which allows or create opportunity for multiple learners to work in a team and develop certain skills. So these are some of the techniques and strategies we generally use in PBL. Now, as I have already discussed, there is a process. One is the first stage start with essential question, where learners find out, discover, or explore some of the pertinent questions directly related to their real life, and then they plan how can this activity or this project be conducted, and in what schedule, what should be the timeline, this, because it doesn't have only 1 week or 1 month or so. Okay, in a stretch of time or whatever, it depends on the nature of the project, what kind of project they have taken. Accordingly, they can schedule each stage and monitor their time, monitor their progress, monitor their activities or involvement, everything. So teacher can work as monitor, students also can work as monitor, and finally assess the development and provide necessary feedback or inputs or scaffolding to the learners, and finally evaluate. The real objective or the overall objective is to evaluate the performance of the learners. So ultimately evaluation is very important, because evaluation decides whether the learner has where some learning has taken place in some learners, and what kind of learning or what was the objective, whether we have achieved those objectives or accomplished those goals which were assigned by the teachers using these projects. So this is the process we follow in project-based learning. So now from project-based learning, very quickly I'll just move to competency-based learning, where the project-based
Sir,
learning.
sir, please bear
Yes.
disturb me. Sir, actually, your screen is being shown there, but the slides are not just there actually. Now it has started, I think.
Is it fine, sir? Is it
Yeah,
visible?
yeah. Now it has started actually. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay, okay. So I will just keep it like that, sir. Okay.
This screen is not visible, sir.
Not visible.
No.
The screen is not visible.
1 second. Since beginning, it is not visible, or now?
No,
Since
beginning it
beginning
was
actually.
visible, but now.
It was visible.
Since beginning.
Okay, okay, okay. Fine. Please check.
Now it is visible, sir.
Now it is visible.
Is it visible
Yes,
now?
sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. How much
Yes,
time
it is
do
visible,
I
sir,
have?
now.
How much time do I have? 5 minutes?
Sir, yes, you can take that 10 more minutes, sir.
Okay, okay. Thank you. Thank you,
Because
sir.
I think we joined a bit late, so we can take 10 more minutes, sir.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to rush through my slides.
Maybe one or two examples instead of rushing. If you want to provide one or two examples, it will be easier for them. They want more illustrations. If you
Yes,
have
yes.
some examples, you can brief more on them.
Sure, sure, sir.
Okay,
Sure.
thank you.
Hmm. So there were two techniques which we already discussed. One is activity-based learning, and second was project-based learning. Where in project-based learning, we can give them some group projects or some case studies where they can go to their fields and then try to find out some problems uh, based on their real life issues, and you can ask them to assemble with other learners, and according to their ethnicity, according to their context, according to their social functions. So they can develop or they can come out with some problems where they can directly go to the field and experience the problem and try to find the solution under the guidance of the teachers. And when they work in the group, they can also get some feedback from other peers. So that was project-based study. And in this competency-based study, now it is a bit advanced, where if we think that we are prepared now as a student, if you think about your students, if you feel that they are prepared for their academics, or they are prepared, they have competence to work in the field, because ultimately most of them want to get job. So in professional space, what kind of skills they need, what kind of skills, for example, if they need leadership skill when they work in group, they need to then they need to work in group and then instruct or work with their group members. So there they need communication skills, very good communication skills, where they can take decision in association with other group members. They can solve problems, or they can negotiate things for them. They can there are certain issues in listening, because they have to attend so many meetings and follow instructions, or they have to speak, they have to conduct meeting, they have to uh, conduct discussions, they have to explain the concepts. So the speaking skills are very important for them. They need to read certain reports, they need to read letters, they need to read the drafts, or they need to read proposals, they have to read different articles, journals, and many other information or emails. So they need to be prepared before they get into industry, or before they get into their professional life, that they should be prepared. So when we choose them, or when we try to provide them, give them certain assistance, so that will be very helpful, that will be very necessary for the teachers to develop their competency. So this competency can be understood as a basis for skill standards that specify the level of knowledge, skills, abilities required for success in the workplace, as well as potential measurement criteria for assessing competency attainment. So, as it says that we need to decide that what kind of learners. There are multiple learners. There are many learners who need who they with their different needs. So which learner needs what? In order to assign or in order to establish that needs, we need to conduct some test. So we can conduct some kind of diagnostic test. So we can conduct some kind of personality test. We can conduct some kind of skill test. So through reading, writing, and other, we can conduct some kind of what do we some psychological tests are also there, which are conducted by the industry, just to know their entry level behavior, or just to know their competence in using the language in multiple context. So this is what competency means, where we have to prepare them with certain kind of skills which they require in their workplace. So what do they need and why do they need it? In any way, our regular curriculum try to accommodate multiple contents, multiple knowledge from multiple fields, and try to construct knowledge to make them competent of, or as a good language user. So why do they need competency based learning? So if we categorize this into three different dimensions. So for students, competency based learning will focus on the students subject and develop their skills which they require. So according to their needs, they can choose their subjects, or according to their needs, their skills will be developed with that kind of assistance. For teachers, it will be very easy, or it will be very focused, where not only they, generally what happens, the teachers, our main goal is to complete the syllabus and develop learners performance for at the end of the session. But here the session depends on the kind of curriculum we give them, our students, and how much time they take to develop these competency. So there is no fixed timetable, or there is no fixed limit, or fixed duration. And there is no focus on syllabus completion only, or any task and test. But here the focus is on to teach a syllabus that is more aligned with the industry requirement, what is applicable in the industry. So it is a kind of preparation for our learners. So teachers also will have that kind of orientation in their mind while they choose, or while they design, or while they teach those subjects. And then industry, it will be very easy for the industry if students are come prepared. They don't have to organize some sessions or training for them. There is a term industry ready. So students will come to any industry with that tag, industry ready. Okay, so if they have those kind of competence in their field, they can excel. They can excel in their field directly. So they have to find students with the exact skill sets as required in the industry. So these three dimensions are very important for competency based learning, and which are looked at. So here, how can we teach them? This is the main question. In competency based learning, what kind of teaching practices, what kind of techniques and strategies we need? So we need to understand, in order to develop those strategies, techniques, methods, or approach, we need to understand the method, or we need to understand the mechanism of competency based learning, which is child centric, where the focus is on learners' choice of learning. Whatever they want, whichever area they want to go, they will go, and they will study. They will focus on those kind of instruction or information. It's not that they will be rigid or fixed towards those points only, because CBL also provides scope for interdisciplinary kind of learning, where they can integrate, where students can be given the opportunity to get information from integrated knowledge from multiple disciplines. They have to, because when you start working in a workplace, then only subject knowledge will not help. You need certain other skills also, which are very much relevant. for your successful career. So they have to give they will be given, or they have to be given a certain amount of information from other fields like sports or politics or the arts or craft and or any other design. So these, that's what this CBL has become interdisciplinary, where students work with in multiple disciplines apart from their main content subject. Then we have it is also inclusive in nature, because it's not only the content subject, or it's not only the content information which can make you expert. Your expertise or your your professional behavior also needs or demands your values, life skills and attitudes at your workplace. So it is very important for syllabus to be very inclusive in nature, where you can work with other set of people. Then individual achievement is very important. The focus is on the individual achievement. When you feel that that when you are sure, when you make sure that students are competent now, or they are oriented towards those competency, then you feel that yes, they are individually they have achieved whatever they whatever they planned earlier. And these are not, these kind of competencies are not developed in the classroom only. They can be developed, or they are developed through multiple kind of tasks, where they work through projects, assignments, games, or experiments or experiences. They have to work there. It's like vocational kind of course, where they can develop themselves overall as a professional. So it is a project-based kind of pedagogy which teachers or which the institutions follow. And finally, it is outcome. The ultimate goal is to get any outcome where the essential, where it is essential and significant for any learner to get the knowledge and certain skills. So these are some of the techniques, or these are the mechanism, or these are some of the principles which can be very helpful for a teacher to understand and then plan accordingly. So I think this is the last slide. So with that, I would like to conclude my session, and now I would like to take your observation, comments, feedback and suggestions. Thank you. I'm stopping my slides here. Okay, and we can delve into the questions, question answer or feedback, or any other kind of queries if you have. Thank you. Thank you for your patient listening. Sorry, I took more time, it seems.
Thank you very much, sir. I think you have also taken questions in between, one or two here and there. If they are quick questions, let us take one or two. I think due to paucity of time, sir might not be able to give lots of illustrations, and because there was like it was just half an hour and three topics covered: project-based learning, competency-based learning, and uh, one was
Activity based.
task-based learning, activity-based
Yes.
learning. So it was like really a very short time, and you could just have a glimpse of it. Actually, these three topics are, you know, broader topics where a lot of illustration, a lot of input is required in order to have a thorough of that. But I think still we could have a glimpse as to how we can give a smaller task to the learners to involve them into certain activities and help them learn also. So maybe we will try to find some more time and we have another platform, and we have detailed discussion on the topic from you, sir. I request you to also join there if we request you, and the participant will join. But as of now, if there are any quick question, thank you very much. Please ask. Please ask if you have any quick question. All right. So a lot of people are saying thank you, sir. It was really interesting. So on this note, I would like to stop here for a few moments, and then I'd like to thank Amit sir for sharing his, giving his valuable time and sharing his inputs on the topic, activity, project, and competency-based learning. So it was really a very good session, and I hope all participants must have taken some valuable inputs from this and will use them in their classroom. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank
And
you. Thank you, sir.
Okay, audience, will stop here for some time and we'll meet sharp at 4:10. 4:10 we'll meet sharp. And I'll start on time, whether you, even if you are late, I'll start on time. Sharp 4:10 will start. So please do join on time. Thank you very much. If you are leaving the group, thank you. Bye-bye.